And it comes back again to if I am praying and asking God to give me a compassionate, loving disposition toward them, my desire is never going to be to cut them off. I don't want to cut them off. I want to maintain a relationship with them. And those texts, I know exactly what you're talking about, Wade, that you'll hear people say those things, or, Jesus told the man to let the dead bury their own dead. You're not going to bury your father.
Yeah.
Like, oh, imagine everyone around him, snap, you got told, son. But we have to understand all that in context and what Jesus was communicating. This wasn't an imperative for all Christians to look at and say, well, I don't need to do this, or I don't have an obligation here. The fifth commandment is your obligation.
Yeah.
Now, with that, I think it's important to remember that our obligation toward our family members are different depending on their place in our lives. So the commandment is to honor your father and mother. Now, that doesn't extend in the same way to all of your aunts and uncles and cousins and everything else. Now, still with them, we want to have good relationships and take advantage of opportunities, but our relationship to them is not the same and should not be the same as the one with our parents, nor our obligation toward them. And that's an important thing to remember too. Not that, because that's my uncle, I have a green light to go hard at him in a way I wouldn't my father. But there is a difference, and that's important to keep in mind with all that.
Yeah. Man, I think that's super helpful. And man, even thinking about the fifth commandment, if you're thinking about moms and dads, and there's no asterisk on that commandment.
Right.
There's no condition where it's voided if your parents are unbelievers. It's like, it's what God calls us to,
Well, I'd go beyond that even and say, not just as unbelievers, it's not limited to an age. It's not limited to whether or not I'm living under their roof, or whether or not I'm married, or whether or not they're still alive.
Yeah.
I still have an obligation after they die to continue to honor them. Not they're dead now, so I can just go and say whatever I want about them. It doesn't matter anymore. No, I want to continue to honor them, and you're not going to hear things coming out of my mouth that are disparaging to my parents, because they're my parents. Even if they're not the greatest people in the world, which mine are, thank God. But if they weren't, you still need to honor them.
Yeah, all the days of your life.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? That your days would be long, and you know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
Like, like it's for you. You're like, it's a serious command, and I think about that often, man, because our parents aren't perfect, man.
Right.
Our parents aren't perfect, and God knew that they weren't going to be perfect, and He knew they would be our parents.
Yep.
And He still calls us to honor them.
And we aren't, and that's what we'll want from our children. How much will that mean, knowing our children see our sins and the ways that we have wronged them, but for them to continue to honor us into adulthood, that's sweet.
Oh, man, absolutely.
So one thing I've wondered over the years with this kind of topic, man, how do I engage unbelieving family in a way that's uncompromising as a Christian, but in a way that's not combative, and still leaves room for good fellowship, and leaves the door open for the gospel as God presents opportunities. So one of the practical things that, I don't know if I've verbalized this, but I think it's how I've lived it out, is location comes into play for me. If unbelieving family is coming into my home,
Totally different. Yep.
how I handle that is differently than me as the believer going into the context of my unbelieving family. So strangely, it seems like a very practical thing for a spiritual conversation. Location, like where are you?
Yep.
But how does that come into play? Why is it important for us to keep that in mind?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we're going into someone else's house, we want to show them that honor, right? But if they're at our house, we're going to continue to do things like family worship. They don't have to join us for it. We're not going to make them, and then maybe depending how old they are or whatever, we're not going to force family members to go to church or do family worship with us or whatever. But we're going to keep doing that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
And invite them along.
Yeah, we'll invite them, yes. So, it gives you that platform from which to do it. But when you go into their home, you're not going to want to be taking over their home.
Yeah.
Right.
It's going to defeat the purpose. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly what I was thinking, Luke, is if you're in my home, we're going to do family worship, and we do it. We're done eating our meal. We're still sitting at the table together, and so I'll do our reading and ask questions or whatever, and we have our conversation right there. Well, you're in my home. You're sitting at my dinner table. This is what we do.
Yeah.
And so we're just going to do it. And maybe
Bait and
you'll
switch.
maybe you'll
Bait
jump
with
in.
a good meal.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Or think of something like the big holidays where everyone gathers. It's Thanksgiving or Christmas. So Thanksgiving, I like to have my family go around the table and talk about something they're thankful for. And what a great opportunity to say, I'm thankful for Jesus Christ, and to use that as an opportunity to, I'm not preaching at you, but I'm speaking the truth of the gospel because I'm actually thankful for that. It's not disingenuous. I am actually more thankful for this than anything else in the world, and I want to express that. Or at Christmas time every year before the madness begins, our family, we read from the Gospel of Luke, and we all take turns going around and we read about the birth of Christ, and we talk about that, and that's just what we do as a family. That's part of our tradition, and another great opportunity to have a gospel conversation in the midst of that. They're there. You're in my home. This is the conversation we have. This is how we actually live our lives. Whether you're here or not, we're doing this. So you're here, you participate, or sit back and listen, or get up and leave the room, whatever you're going to do, but that's not going to change how we do this. And so I agree 100%. What I'm not going to do is go into a family member's home and say, hey, it's Thanksgiving. We need to go around the table and share what we're thankful for, and just hijack everything. It's not my home. I don't get to call those shots, and I need to be very careful I'm not stepping on toes and all that.
Yeah, that's helpful, man. Because, man, and it could be places other than homes. You know, if you're inviting somebody into your context, wherever that may be, whether it's your home, it could be. A trip to, you're taking your family to the park. Hey, come along, we're going to the park, or what have you. I think there's just a general good way to think about it, man, is man, are you inviting them into your context, or are they inviting you into your context, wherever that may be? And if you're inviting somebody into your context, then I think, man, it's 100% appropriate for you to just continue to live. But here's the other thing too, man. Here's the temptation. Don't invite somebody into your context and then flex. Like start doing stuff you really don't do like that. Like we don't really do family worship every night, but
because you're here.
But we're definitely doing family worship.
And the kids are like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
we don't do this. Why are we gathered around the piano singing songs? We don't ever do this.
Now you're elbowing the kids because they answered the catechism question wrong. Like, come on, man, you know
you
that.
should know this.
I asked you that 2 months ago.
Never actually taught it to us. So.
Oh man.
Pretty good.
Yep.
But if you're the host, if you're the one showing hospitality, then you're the MC. You got the mic.
That's right.
And let them have the mic.
Yeah.
If they did,
I think another thing is if you have family that lives near you, you can easily and consistently, without being a complete and total pest, invite them to church. Hey, just want you to know the invitation's open anytime you want to go to church with us. Here's when we meet. Here's what's going on. And then various events through the year. If they have kids, if your church has a vacation Bible school over the summer, for example. Hey, bringing the kids to VBS, wanted to see if you wanted your kids to go along. And if the answer's no, okay, that's cool. Hey, we have a men's conference coming up, love to invite you. We have a men's breakfast. Hey man, you can come get some free food, hang out with some guys. We got a little Bible study in there, but we'd love to have you come. Things like that, to where it's, you're leaving it up to them, but you're able to consistently put that before them, and they know, hopefully, they know this is me loving you. I want to invite you into my world. And this is my world. This is my life. The church is my life. And I want you to be a part of that. So here you go.
Yeah. Man, as the believer, I think it's easier, at least for me, it's easier to wrap my head around inviting someone into my context because I understand my context.
Yeah.
This is who I am, this is what I do, this is where I'm comfortable. And so if the goal is to just keep living how I'm living in my own context, I kind of already got that filled out. If anything, I'm just maybe wrestling with possibly being intimidated by acting out my Christian life in front of other people.
Yeah, and
But-
the world will have no problem with anyone representing what they believe, obviously. So Christians should never, this is an aside,
Yeah.
Christians should never feel like, I can't represent. Everyone represents. People are going to respect you for representing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
that's just
But- Yeah, but going into other people's contexts, I think is a little bit more tricky though, because you don't really understand their context fully. You may or may not understand their context fully. And I think there's possibly, for example, kind of the traditional, not the common thing that comes up. I think the gay wedding thing probably is the most common scenario that I hear. Like, man, should I or should I not go to my gay family member's wedding, or even something a little bit more practical? We're hosting Thanksgiving, at our house, and my family member who's gay wants to bring their partner to the thing, right? So coming into your house, going into their house, obviously it's their house, they live there, stuff like that. Do you go to their house, right, and share a meal in that context? Or do you add stipulations when they come to your house in situations like that? So I know that's kind of a tough scenario. One don't want to put anybody completely on blast for a specific scenario that you may or may not have actually come across. But using those as examples, right, there can be some tricky nuance to some of these scenarios, man. So have you thought through stuff like that?
Absolutely, and it depends. I mean, there's so many factors there. It depends. So, for example, if I have a family member who lives with their significant other out of wedlock, hey, you guys are more than welcome to come over, enjoy the meal, spend time with the family. But if you guys are going to sleep together, you can't stay in my home. It's not going to be, and that's a conviction I have, and here's the reasons why. And we love you, we want to be around you, but we're not going to go there. We're not going to allow that. If I have a gay family member and they have their significant other, whoever that is, you're welcome to come. We want to spend time with you. Same thing. And that's far better than saying, no, you can't bring them, because what does that ultimately mean? No, you also can't come. No, I don't want a relationship with you. No, I don't want an opportunity to have some influence in your life. No, I never want to share the gospel with you. That's what I'm communicating by that. As opposed to, I want to go as far as I can with them until it comes to the point of them assuming what I'm doing is affirming where they are in their sin, or that I don't care, or that they're going to do something that I have the ability to cut off, because it would be sinful for me to allow that. But I want to go as far as I can with them.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of scenarios where that would take place. So it takes a lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
And we need prayer, and we need the counsel of others to help us.
Yeah, even considering the maturity of your children.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
In that, because you could, when you say I want to go as far as I can with you, how far I can go may be impacted
Yes.
by the maturity of my children, conversations and scenarios that they're just not mature enough to process, and they're not ready to kind of talk, you know what I'm saying? So that may impact how far I can go with you. If they were older, if my kids were like 15, you know what I mean, I might be able to walk a little bit further, put myself in some different scenarios. That's
right.
So similar thought for you?
No, just I was going to bring up what you just brought up about the children. Is your first responsibility is, as a parent, to protect your children. If there's a situation where, I mean, when I was a kid, we lived next door to a couple lesbians, but I remember my parents always called them the sisters. So we didn't have to talk about it. It wasn't, I didn't think nothing of that, whatever. But it's different if it's a family member that they know, that the kids know, where you may have to introduce that discussion earlier than you want to with your kids.
Right.
So I think that's a real That's a real legitimate wrestle on what are we prepared to do? Are the kids up to handling this?
Mm-hmm.
And then go from there. Mm-hmm. You have to consider them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even, again, the situation of inviting people into your environment, into your home, there may be times when you have to be very clear and have some courage and say, maybe you have a boisterous uncle who says whatever he says, that you might have to say, hey, uncle, whoever, I'd appreciate it if you not talk about that in my home. I've got kids, whatever, that's just not something that we value, and we'd rather not have that conversation right now. Or whatever that, and again, I think people will either respect you for standing on your convictions, or they will reject you altogether, and that could turn into a big thing. But the worst thing you could do is to just sit back and let it all unfold without ever saying anything at all.
Yeah.
Because then the assumption is, oh, they're going along with me, so they must be a hypocrite, or they must not actually believe this, or it must not be that big of a deal. When, I want to draw clear lines so people know there is a difference between us. And it's not because of me, but because of what God has done in me. But in that moment, I have to stand on this if I'm obedient to the Lord and I'm actually caring for my family and caring about you and your soul.
Yeah, I also think it's another way to be hospitable in terms of putting your cards out up front, even if it's uncomfortable to do it. It's part of the reason even why I think it's hospitable to put things on your church website that you believe or don't believe.
Yes.
I think, man, why surprise someone?
Right. Right.
Why have someone, come and they may come for X amount of period of time, and they
It's
think
always best to be up front.
yeah, they think it's all good until you start preaching on the text. That's their favorite sin, and then it's like, I wish I would have known. Now I'm emotionally invested, I'm financially invested, all these things, and it's like, we could be upfront, we could be hospitable. I think it's a way of actually, I think it's a form of kindness to put it out there.
When you were describing the uncle, it made me think of the first conference I ever preached at. Very hospitable, very nice folks, but I was warned, do not mention Calvinism.
Oh, really? Wow.
So
Yeah, well,
I
it's good, though.
respected that. Of
Yeah.
course, I wasn't about to do that.
Yeah.
Why would I do that?
Sure,
That's
he's
fine.
stepping into their house.
Yeah.
I think that we've talked a lot about people coming into our environment, but there's, obviously the reality of going into theirs. And I remember a situation where I went to visit family, extended family, and I hadn't seen them in a long time, and we were riding around. It was me and my uncle and my aunt, and they were asking me about life and what I was doing, and I was talking about the church and being a pastor, and they had a lot of questions about that. And my aunt sat up in the back seat and said, I've just told my kids, it doesn't matter what you believe, but that you believe in something. And I was like 20-something at the time, fairly new pastor. And I said, even if they become Satanists? And it was funny. My uncle started laughing. Neither one of them believers. He thought it was funny, and she didn't really have much to say, So, but part of that was I know them and have a relationship with them where I can sort of half joking, but at the same time highlighting the ludicrous statement that she just made without launching into a soliloquy about, why she's wrong and how she's leading her children to hell and everything else. Like, I can communicate that in a simple statement, knowing the relationship we have. Yeah.
Yeah. It's man, got me thinking now, like you said, going into other people's context, man. I went to visit some family earlier this year for a funeral, and I was completely out of my own context. And I got one family member, I won't share the name, just in case they decide to watch Marrow Ministries, the Marrow Show. But man, they're big into the rocks with the energy.
Oh yeah.
I'm saying? You get the different types of rocks.
That's what Luke does.
This rock has the energy. You know what I'm saying? You know, that's why I don't go to Minnesota that much. But not only, it's not just like a random rock. This family member also has a device that you can touch the rock, and it will like put a frequency, like a vibration, into the rock, and then you can pick and choose your frequency. Like this is like the healing vibration, this is the prosperity vibration, this is the all these different vibrations, you know, and you can put it in the rock, and if you keep the rock nearby, then whatever energy it's charged up with, like that's what it brings to your life.
Do you play the song "Good Vibrations" in the background when that's going on?
Well, no, I hadn't heard that one yet, but I'll make that suggestion.
Yeah, you should.
You know what I'm saying? So it's interesting because, you know, I was confronted that day where because on the last day there, this family member, with all the sincerity in their heart, had gifts for us.
Oh no!
And we were all sitting around having our last meal as a family. And
vibrating rock.
everyone had their own rock with its own vibration that was pre-charged into it.
Oh boy!
Oh man,
What was yours?
Oh man, I think mine was the prosperity. I think I had the rock that was charged with prosperity.
What stone was it?
I can't remember the stone.
You got the prosperity stone.
Yeah.
They must not know that you have one of the highest pastoral salaries in the country.
Starting salary.
Starting.
Ever
Yeah.
been recorded.
Ever
Yeah.
in the history
Yeah.
of time, right? So, so I don't know, man. Maybe I already had the rock. I don't know. But so I get my rock, and then funny story. My sister gets a rock, and she had the healing energy in the rock, right? And later on into our meal, my sister, she starts coughing. You know, she's like, "Man, I got a sore throat." And I looked at my sister. I said, "Why don't you use your rock?" Oh man, it was an interesting family meal. Then my sister leans behind the chair. She looks at me, and she gives me the middle finger. Oh man, you know, interesting family moments where I'm out of my context, man.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, okay, like I don't believe in this at all. But I could have made a scene. I could have been like, hey, you know what? This is stupid. The rock, energy, this and that. I'm a Christian. Miss me with that. And I know some people put that in the realm of witchcraft and stuff like that too. I just think it's silly. But as a believer indwelt with the Spirit, I'm not worried about some other spirit trying to come in here. And, you know, I'm just not worried about that. So, I received it momentarily. I can't say where it ended up, but
I think we can guess.
But
you know, it's a good opportunity. The right thing to do in that scenario is to turn to them and say, "Thank you for thinking of us."
I like that. Write that down, y'all.
Yeah.
Thank you for thinking of us.
Right.
I like that.
I'm not affirming it in any way.
Sure.
But obviously they've tried to think about something that's important to them, whatever. Even though it's utterly ludicrous that we can say, "Hey, thanks for considering me." Mm-hmm. And you know, something I've found very helpful, because it's very in-your-face, non-confrontational, is that I will send stuff to family members. So maybe it's a short little book or something about something that is going on in their lives, but it's written by a Christian, or a Bible. I've sent Bibles to a lot of my family members, and I'll just include a short little note, you know, telling them, "Hey, love you. Didn't know if you had a Bible. Here's a few things to check out. Hope you get a chance to read it. If you have any questions, let me know." Send it to them, and it's there. They can do what they're going to do with it, but I've made an attempt. I've taken advantage of an opportunity I've had to try and be a help to them spiritually. And sometimes I'll hear from them, sometimes I won't. Some will thank me, and that's kind of it. Others may engage in conversation. Some may pretend like it never happened, and they won't say a word about it. But, you know, I want to get the Word of God in people's hands, or I want books that are going to point them to the truth in their hands, and sometimes that's borne some fruit. And so, you know, be creative. Think of opportunities you might have if you're not with these people all the time. What are other ways you could communicate with them?
did you charge the Bibles with different energies?
Yeah,
For each
they
family
vibrated,
member.
yeah.
Both of your reactions to the examples that you guys gave was to be humorous about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good tool too,
Yeah,
because you can lodge your disagreement, but in a more winsome way.
right.
Jokes are good for that.
Yeah.
They are. Well, y'all, man, you learned a little bit today, man. This was a great topic. Hopefully, you heard something that you could put to use. But if you have more questions, something that we need to follow up on, and the best way to do that, you need to go to marrowministries.org. You need to go on there, sign up, create an account. Leave your email address on there so you're on our mailing list and so that you don't miss a thing. But also, once you become a member, you're going to get access to things like a chat room where you get direct access to us, and we're always in there fielding questions, having conversations. This episode was suggested by one of our supporters. And they only got to us because they had access to the top secret chat room that I didn't just tell you about. So that's what you want to do, man. But let us know in the comments a practical thing you learned. I know for me, I'm taking this one from now on is thank you for thinking of me.
There you go.
I'm using that one forever, bro. Eventually, people are gonna hate when they hear me say it
because they know.
Hey, I'm gonna eat some food. It's gonna have some mayonnaise on it or something like that, and I'm gonna take a bite and I'm gonna look at them and put it down, and I'm like,
hey, you know when that happens?
Thank you for thinking of me.
If you are in a church and you are sick or had a baby or whatever, and people bring food over to the house, and they bring you something and it's just straight up nasty, then maybe a week later they say, hey, did you like the food or whatever? The answer to that is,
I need this.
No, the answer to that is, food like that doesn't last long in my house.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. Because it didn't even
Last
last.
time they're going to give you double portions.
Yeah, right.
Hey, look, I ain't having no more babies, so you know what I'm
It's
saying?
like Aragorn with the soup.
Right.
Oh, man. Hey, let me tell you, food like that don't last long at our house. Let me tell you. Woo-hoo. Oh, man. Man, you came with the nuggets today,
Hey, man,
yo.
there you go.
Yeah. Nick Nuggetcott. I appreciate you, my guy. All right. So, man, if you want some more of the nuggets, right? You know what I'm saying? You got at least a 2-piece today, but, man, I'm saying if you need a 10-piece extra spicy, then you need to become a member. You need to go to marrowministries.org and join us today. But today, man, we talked about family business, man. As Christians, how do we navigate situations with our unbelieving family? So watch the content, share it, engage with it, man, and then hit us up everywhere, man. Listen to the podcast, subscribe, share this on all your socials, all that stuff. So this is the Marrow Show by Marrow Ministries. We'll see you guys next time.